Step 5, the abstract, and then he's also got a section on um, responding to revise and resubmit. So we kind of say the abstract to the end because it's supposed to kind of be the short version of the logic of the entire paper. And if you haven't really nailed down the rest of the paper, you could be kind of um, wasting your time to write the abstract too early. So we usually do that at the end, um, and it usually kind of mirrors the sections of the paper. So introductory sentence. Usually don't spend a lot of time setting this up. Then you're providing details about the method and details about the analyses and main findings, and then usually a final statement of kind of the main points. And every journal kind of has different limits. Some are as short as like 70 words. Some give you as many as like, I think 250 or maybe even higher. It's common to kind of shoot for about 150 words. But you should definitely look at the journal you're submitting to. But, Josh gives you an example here. And then step 6, write a cover letter. I've got a template for this, and what we'll usually do, you can take one that's been used before. Make sure that you remember to change the editor's name and that you have the appropriate journal. So little mistakes like that can kind of zing you. Think how you would feel if you were the editor and someone had kind of careless mistakes and forgot your name. So you kind of put what the title of the paper is. This can only hurt you. You're not going to change the editor's mind here, so don't present a fancy argument, but just kind of a brief statement of why you think the paper is important is common, and usually people kind of stick author information. So a lot of times the journal will have specifics of what they want you to provide in a cover letter, but it's usually this kind of information. Sometimes they want like an ethics statement or something like that. So he's got step 7 after you submit, to wait a while for reviews. I will add, there have been times where after it's been over 6 months, you may want to think about contacting the editor and just reminding her or him that you're waiting. So we've had several times where an editor just happens to have forgotten about a paper, and so just a little prompt is very normal, and it can kind of get things moving again. So step 8, Josh kind of goes over his strategy for dealing with a revision. So, one thing you definitely want to do is you want to respond to every single comment. This is kind of where you turn on the OCD part of your brain and make sure, even to kind of a stingy reviewer, that you've kind of nailed things down. It is a little bit tricky, and I may make a few videos just kind of talking through a few letters that we've done. So you generally want to accommodate as much as possible and never really disagree. This is at least our strategy, unless you have to, because there probably will be one or two things that there's not really a way to fully address, and so kind of generally being accommodating earns yourself goodwill for the one or two times where you really are going to kind of have to make a case for what you did, or kind of soften the blow. So he gives an example. So you kind of paste in the letter. A lot of times you can cut out some of the introductory stuff by the editor, just so it's not 50 50 pages, and you lead with kind of a nice little thank you so much. We really appreciate the helpful comments. Um, and what Josh does is he kind of summarizes the key points and then does a response. I don't even do the consideration one and summary type thing. I just leave the letter exactly as is, and then I'll put my response to each one, so and I'll number it. So I'll later on I'll give you an example of one of mine, but we do this a little bit differently, but it's essentially the same idea. Um, and what you want to do before you submit this is like read each kind of critique and really make sure that you've kind of done the most nuanced and strongest job of kind of weakening the critique, using all of your kind of emotional intelligence and kind of what do you call it, research expertise, bringing all of that to bear. Um, so yeah, you can kind of look through this one and see what this looks like, and I'll go over a couple of letters, especially I'll kind of hit some examples of pretty tricky critiques and how we ended up handling those.